We truly live in unprecedented times. That is a phrase one hears thrown about in our modern day, echoed by the media and repeated by millions across the globe, bringing feelings of unease and worry to the average media viewer. A phrase that has been said so many times that it almost rings hollow now. But there's still truth in the statement. A modern political shift has landed us in unprecedented times. The modern populist movement. To those unaware, populism is an ideology dedicated to lifting up the common people and fighting the political and economic elites of a country. Populism has always been deeply rooted in the United States. Our country was founded on the premise of populism. Jeffersonian democracy was rooted in the belief that the people of the 13 colonies should have the right to govern themselves and not an out-of-touch king in a far-off land. In the past 40 years, though, the populist foundation of our country was ignored by our political leaders. Trade agreements such as NAFTA, anti-union laws, and supply-side economic policies propped up by presidents, both Democrat and Republican, increased economic disparity between the wealthy and the working, and crippled industrial jobs throughout the country, creating increased anxiety and anger built up as a result of these economic consequences. Despite this, outside of third-party candidates, no serious alternative was given to an increasingly frustrated populace. This changed in 2015, coming from an unexpected person. In June of that year, a billionaire real estate investor from New York City announced his candidacy for the president. This man was Donald Trump. Despite the nature of his background, Donald Trump almost immediately struck a chord with populist voting groups, those who felt the worst impacts in the age of NAFTA. He promised that, unlike other Republicans, he wouldn't cut social programs, he would end bad trade, and that he would defend American jobs from foreign labor. An economic message based on defending the working class and rebuilding American manufacturing. This message eventually rode Trump to the presidency. But this rise in attempting to please the common man, no matter the cost, does indeed have a cost in itself. Repeating dogmas, stigmatizing the people, and proclaiming yourself to be a man of the people can get you a following, one unlike any other we've seen in modern politics. On January 6, 2021, a loyal following, dissuaded by an electoral loss, took to the streets in protest, angry. Angry that their man of the people was dethroned by the people. They sought ulterior ways of keeping their brand of populism in control to prevent what they saw as the political establishment from taking back America. Windows were shattered, offices were looted, our representatives were evacuated, and a national outcry began. The populist movement seemingly crested and then crashed back into the sea because of a riot many saw as rooted in the populist rhetoric of our former president. However, a phoenix of populism rose from the ashes and flew away in a much different form. On April 28, 2021, it became apparent that populism had not died with Trump, but instead evolved to be an institution of modern government. On that day, President Joe Biden delivered a speech to a joint session of Congress. This speech had confirmed what had been anticipated over the course of years by many Americans: the embrace of populism by both major political parties. Joe Biden laid out an agenda dedicated to investment in American industry, protection from the outsourcing of jobs, and assurance to that the extent of the Democratic Party's capability that American manufacturing would not die in our lifetimes. Just 20 years ago, both major political parties had fully embraced policies that later turned out to outsource our labor and turn the Steel Belt into the Rust Belt. Now, both parties recognize their grievances, accepting that the future of America must rely on upholding blue-collar labor one way or another. Like it or not, the populist style of governance is going to be the future of American politics. The era in which government is run following how experts and intellectuals think government should be run is over. America's future is wrapped in populism. The public has become determined to have its interests heard over that of the political establishment. The consequences of this backlash amongst the people will ring throughout the next decade, if not further. For after all, we live in unprecedented times.